So the very first thing we did when we got this place was go get baby chicks at the local farm store. We got 10 of them, and 3 of them ended up being roosters. 7 hens. We still have all 7 hens. And we still have 1 rooster. We culled the other 2 roosters. They're all doing really great. This is Valentina. Say hi, Valentina. So here's a little tour of our coop and run that we built last fall. We do let the chickens free range during the day. So we have a full-size door that we walk into for the run. They can go under the coop. We decided to make it elevated. That way, when it is closed up at night, it's less likely predators can get in there. We can remove the walkway. So we have this door on the side just for easier clean out. So we just open it up and prop it open and grab a rake and just pull everything out of there. We have the nesting boxes over here. We don't have a lock on it, but we do have a rock. And it's a little dirty in there. Hello. But yep, there's 3 nesting boxes there. And I'll tell you right now, they don't use them. Well, sometimes they do, but they like to lay over here. Let me open this up really quick. They love to just lay in the coop or some random place they like to find out during the day. We've got their water in here. We use this cup of water. And they just, the little yellow things move to the side. They can press it with their beak and it releases fresh water into the little cups. There's their food. Another thing we did really early on when we first got this place was install this gutter along our back patio here. And then it leads to a rain barrel right here. We wanted to make use of this awesome metal roof, and it fills up great. I mean, 1 solid rain and it's full. So that was great. And it keeps a lot of rain off of our patio and going up against the house, which is also nice. We ended up installing a second rain barrel on the side of our chicken coop to make it a lot closer to the garden. We use both of these barrels mostly for watering plants. We do not give the water to our animals, but it is nice to just have that extra backup in case we need it.
I'm just hopping in here to talk about the shop. Amy wanted me to talk about it because I put it together with the help of my father-in-law. It is a shop kit that we got from a local company, but they order it from Central Manufacturing. It's a Centra Series building. It's a 30 by 52. So first, the cost breakdown. When we first were figuring up the prices, it was before we moved out here. So we kind of lowballed how much it was going to cost for especially the concrete. So the concrete ended up being $15,000, which was a little bit more than we were expecting. The building kit itself was $16,780. That's not insulated and no painted roof to save a little bit of money. And also he said it'd probably be about $7,000 for labor. So we saved roughly about $7 grand doing the work ourselves. And then also we got the garage doors separate because their prices were pretty high. So to get those, it was another month-long wait, but also about $2,600 for both of them to be installed. So we put some money into it, but we found ways to save. As far as putting it together, it was a learning experience. It was a lot of trial and tribulation. My father-in-law was an engineer. He's retired, but if there was somebody that I would want to have to put together a kit like that with, he was the right guy, especially because like being an engineer aside, he has always been a very hands-on person that likes to do projects, build stuff. He could basically build a house from the ground up. He's done all sorts of plumbing, electrical, and he actually helped me run electrical from the house over to the shop, and then we put some sockets in there or whatever. But yeah, so basically it's divided into 3 different areas. Not actually divided as far as like having walls up, but we just have 3 certain areas. On the far right side, we've got, I guess for you, so on the far left, it's like actual workshop. In the center, we've got a little hobby area for me and the kids, and then on the right side here, it's a home gym, because we think, you know, staying in shape is pretty important regardless of why. It's just good to be a good influence for your kids and even sometimes your friends, and you know, just being healthy, making healthy choices, eating healthier food. Obviously, that's why we're here. So yeah, basically that's it. Like I said, it was a learning experience. For the most part, everything went together fairly easy. I will say that with building kits like that, be very careful with the instructions, because there were parts that were supposed to, according to the instructions, we're supposed to measure a certain amount, and we put it together that way, and it made the whole roof particularly go too wide. So we realized that the instructions weren't exactly right for the building kit that we had. And then also I was saying we could put the small door on any bay that we wanted, but what they didn't say was that there wouldn't be any center bracing in that entire bay. So we had to essentially fabricate some center bracing with extra metal that we had on hand. So again, coming into play, I'm glad that I had my father-in-law here, because if I was just by myself trying to figure that out, it would have been tough, because I don't have any sort of experience with that sort of thing. But other than that, yeah, it was pretty good. My father-in-law would come help me on the weekends, most weekends in a row. I think it took us about a month to get it together. So pretty much every weekend he was out here. But during the week, whenever I would get off work, I would just come out here and just like start putting up siding by myself. I hung some of the roof purlins by myself. Yeah, it was tough, and I don't want to do it again, but I am glad to have had the experience.
Here is another small project that my husband built. Just a little storage shed. We have some room on each side we have tools over here on the left, and then some firewood stacked up on the right. We decided to do a no-till garden. We got compost hauled in from a local mushroom farm, and we laid down cardboard and did the whole sheet mulching thing, compost on top, and went to town. I've got a 60 by 60 garden area fenced in. The fencing was mainly to keep our cow out, even though he did his best work breaking into this garden multiple times. I have only utilized about half of the garden this year, but I do plan on expanding it the full area next year. I've got my goats over there working on taking down some of that brush in the back half of the garden. So this year I did a lot, and I had some failures, but also some great success. It's still going despite how many weeds there are. Let's see, I've got blackberries, strawberries, ground cherries. I'm trying to remember everything I planted. I have many varieties of hot peppers still going strong. Bell peppers right here behind me doing awesome still. I did a 16-foot row of sauce tomatoes. I did San Marzano and Roma, and those did great. I think I got close to 200 pounds of tomatoes there. And then behind me over here, I did slicing tomatoes and cherry tomatoes. Those also did well. I've got celery, I did cucumbers, which went absolutely insane. So I had 2 cucumber plants, and I had more cucumbers than I knew what to do with. I ended up feeding a ton of them to the chickens, which they loved. I've got celery. I did a lot of spaghetti squash. That did really good. My carrots were a fail. My onions were kind of a fail. I do still have some in the ground. They just don't get very big, or they haven't gotten very big. I did watermelons, and they were out of control. I had like 20 watermelons that were like 25 pounds a piece. So the chickens also really loved those. I have green beans, asparagus, and loofah is what is growing on this fence right behind me over here. I'm starting to get a few of those too. So all in all, it's been a good garden season. I did not really do a fall garden. I was tired, and I just decided I'm gonna focus on canning and preserving some stuff and go for the fall garden next year. As soon as winter comes around and temps really start to cool off, I'm gonna start cleaning out a bunch of weeds, cleaning the beds out, laying down cardboard to get some new beds in, and just getting it really cleaned up. I learned a lot in the last season, so I'll be carrying that on to the next season. I have my hot peppers way across the garden to try to avoid any cross-pollination with my bell peppers, so my kids wouldn't cry. So I have more pepperoncinis over here. Jalapenos. These are lemon spice jalapenos, which, here, I'll show you. They are bright yellow when they're ripe, and they have a citrusy jalapeno flavor. I made some pepper jelly out of those. It was really good. I have cayenne, serrano, and poblano over there. It's a bit of a mess, but that's okay. I've still got the green beans here going strong. These are really the only thing that I planted, well, that has survived my late summer planting. I tried to do pumpkins and those died, so I still have the green beans though. Here is my loofah. It's looking pretty ugly right now. When they are young, you can eat them, but if you want to use them as a sponge, you typically let them dry out on the vine. I wait until they're brown, and then I pick them, and then you just peel it off, get the seeds out, and good to go. Here is my asparagus. I started this from seed this past spring. I think about 4 or 5 of my plants survived. I got them in the ground, and they have bushed out quite nicely. So hopefully we'll have some good asparagus plants coming up. Okay, we've got our orchard behind me. We originally planted 2 apple and 2 pear trees last October, and then in the spring we planted 7 more trees, so we had 11. Now we have 6. Now we have 7. Several of them died, but I still have 3 apple trees, 2 pear trees, 2 plum trees. So I'm hoping for a little more success with that this coming year, and I definitely plan on expanding this with peach and some nut trees and just some different varieties, I think, of apple and pear also. This is one of our goat shelters that we built. We have 2. We had a ton of free pallets, so we made 2 3.5 two-sided shelters out of those, filled with straw. They have a hay feeder in there, so pretty comfortable for them. It was great for them last winter. We use this electric netting with a solar battery, and it's really easy to move around, so you can put them on fresh pasture, make sure they always have fresh grass to eat and all that. So I love it. It's great. I recommend it if you don't want to build a permanent fence. And it's great for rotational grazing. So I'll show you what's going on over here. This is Philip and Ghost. They are brothers. They are Nigerian dwarf goats. Let's see. They're almost a year old. They were born in November of last year. So for their fence, we have, I can't remember exactly how long each set of netting is, but we have two linked together. So it's pretty big. I mean, they stay well fed on it in the green months. These guys never fail to make me laugh. They're ridiculous, but they smell awful. If you didn't know, bucks that have not been neutered let off a very distinct earthy smell that permeates everything. So we keep them kind of far from the house. They're sweeties though. This winter will be our first breeding season. So right now we have 2 girls and 2 boys, so we will pair them up and see what happens. We use this Premier One Solar IntelliShock 60 to power our fences. All you need is a grounding rod, and you can pretty much put it up anywhere. The directions are super easy. We did have one issue with this battery. We have 2 of them, and the company sent out a replacement part and then gave me instructions over the phone on how to replace it, so I wouldn't have to pay to ship the battery back. So they do have a warranty, and they were very helpful. When they were little babies, they could get out of it though. They could fit through the holes, but they have respected the fence line ever since they've been adults. It works great, so we're gonna keep with it. Here's our other goat house right now. We have the girls out in a mobile shelter up by the garden, eating some up there, so they're not in this shelter right now. But as everything dies back and the weather gets colder, obviously this is where they'll be, and they have their own separate fence. So there's another train. So this is not our barn over there. We got 5 acres cut off of a 90-acre plot. We did a lot split when we bought the property. So there was this fencing that you're looking at, and then fencing by the road, and the rest of the property was not fenced. So the gentleman that we bought the property from still had his cattle on the rest of the acreage, so we had to get some fencing up just to keep his cattle out of our business, basically. So we have the fencing starting here and running all the way around the property, up to the far corner over there by the road. This fence was a huge project. We did not have any experience building fences. My husband pounded every single T-post, which they are like 6 feet apart. We have 5 acres. And then I helped him run the barbed wire. He got the corner posts put up, everything. We have a video about it if you go back and look. just to give you a little idea of the property, how much 5 acres really is. I'm standing at the back corner over here. You can see over down the fence line, the other far corner. We've got the goats back here, the orchard up above that, the garden, and then the shop and the chicken coop all around the house, which is behind all of these trees right here. Okay, this is a bit of a mess right now, but this is our compost system that we made out of pallets. We are getting ready to start filling the second bin. We have the first one all covered up because the chickens love to go in there and lay eggs. But we've officially, you know, filled that thing for a whole year, so we're gonna let it rest, decompose, and start on year 2 in bin 2. And then year 3 we'll go in bin 3. We'll come back around to the first bin the following year. So it's a whole system set up here. Okay, I've got my girls here, my sweetest little goats. They are set up in our garden right now, in the back half of it, like I mentioned earlier. They have been working on clearing some of this stuff out. They're doing a great job. Let's go in and see them. Come here, girl. This is Nia. My kids named her after the Ninjago, Lego Ninjago Ninja, Nia. And this is Oblina behind me. Oblina was the first goat we got. They're both Nigerian dwarf goats. Oblina is a little over a year old. I think she's like a year and 4 months old. And then Nia will be a year old in next month, in November. So they're both pretty young. They're sweetie pies. They love attention. And they love to eat. Oh, you're not gonna eat my hair, are you? This is our little mobile shelter. It's a simple wood frame. We have lawnmower wheels on the back, so you can just very simply lift it and pull it to wherever it needs to go on the land. It's super lightweight. We used an 8-foot hog panel and just a heavy duty tarp folded over the top of it. I just zip tied it. It's held up so far, even though the goats constantly get on top of it. So it's great for mild weather or summertime when you're moving them around constantly. And then, like I said, in the winter when it's cold and there's no grass to eat or brush to eat, they go in their permanent shelter down there. If it is going to storm, which we do get crazy storms here, it's Oklahoma, I will move them back into their permanent shelter. It's too scary for them. They hate rain, and I don't want them to be unhappy. So I will move them if I see that it's going to be super stormy or raining for days on end. I'll put them back in their permanent area, and they stay pretty dry and happy in there. This is how much personal space I get when I'm with the goats. And there they are on top, scoping it out. One thing that I can't show you right now is we did have a cow previously. We got him from a neighbor who ran his cattle near us, but he did not live around here, and the calf's mom had died and he was losing weight. He offered the calf to us. It was about 2 to 3 months old at the time, so it was not newborn. But he offered him to us if we could take on the extra care that he needed. And we did, and he thrived. But he eventually became quite an issue. He would bend all the gates around the property, trying to get into places he wasn't supposed to be. Like the garden and our yard around the house is fenced off from the pasture, and that's where we keep all the chicken feed and stuff, and he found a way to get into that often. We tried reinforcing fences and gates and all of that, but he destroyed the garden multiple times. He chased our kids, which was pretty scary for them. So we did make the decision to go ahead and get him processed early. That was always the plan, but we did not plan on doing it quite as early as we did. But it was tough. I mean, he did live a really good life here. We had gotten the goats specifically to keep him company, and you know, he had free range of about 4.5 acres. In the end, we decided that he was costing us too much money trying to fix everything that he destroyed. We got about like I think 330 pounds of meat, and it ended up costing us about $1 a pound after fees and everything when it was all said and done. So that was an experience. Okay, so this is our wood stove. We got it installed this past February, and our goal was to use it as our primary heat source, and it has worked out so far. It does a really great job at heating the house. This model has a catalytic combustor in it, so that really helps it have clean, efficient burns. I think this particular model can heat up to 2,000 square feet, and our house is about just a little under 1,500 square feet. Okay, Otto, this is Otto. He's a big baby. So yeah, we're really happy with it. Right now, this house just has, or when we moved in here, we had electric heat. So it's pretty pricey. So is gas heat. Everything is pricey these days, but around here we can get a rick of wood for around $50. We haven't gone through a full season of using it, so I'm not sure how many ricks we will end up using, but I do think that it has saved us money. And we also have wood from our land that we can source, so that is a huge plus. So we ordered this from a company that's about an hour away from us. They delivered it, they installed it, and we have had no issues. It's done a great job, like I said. Let me show you the manual and the model name. This is the manual. It's the Green Mountain 60, and like I said, it does have the catalytic combustor. You also get a tax credit when you do your taxes for getting one of these installed. It has to meet certain efficiency requirements, so I would do your research if you are aiming to try to get that. But yeah, it's been really awesome. Just a little bit about the catalytic combustor. So when the stove gets hot enough, it'll read catalyst active, and all you do is you turn this handle to activate the catalytic combustor. All right, so here is everything that I have canned, minus what we have actually opened and eaten. I haven't done too much yet, actually. I have frozen a ton of stuff to
can later on when it's cold outside and I want to heat my kitchen up. But I've done pickles, quite a bit of pickles for us anyway. We don't eat that many. And then I did pepperoncinis pickled and the pepper jelly. So I basically prioritize just the cucumbers because those really don't freeze that well. And then I will show you all of my tomatoes and peppers in my freezer. All right, here is my freezer. These are my peppers. I need to get these in bags. So my bell peppers, I have just been cutting up and putting in bags in the freezer, and then I use them in like soups and stews and stir fry, all that. There's a little bit of melon juice from one of our melons. Here's tons and tons. There's peppercini, cayenne, I think those are, or they might be Thai chili, I can't remember. There's a bunch of jalapenos. I still have a ton more out there to pick. And then you see I've been chopping up bell peppers. So, oops. I'll bag these up. I usually either, if I'm chopping it up, I just chop it up and put it on the tray, or I have one underneath where I just wash them, dry them, put them on the tray to freeze, and then I bag them. Here's some more peppers. There's a bunch more of my lemon spice jalapenos. Just a bunch of stuff. This is all ground beef from our cow. And these are all steaks. Okay, and here's all of my sauce tomatoes and some cherry tomatoes. Yes, there's a ton. I mean, layers and layers of tomatoes. And then I have roasts over here in the corner underneath the tomatoes. So, I do plan on canning some of these tomatoes so I can have some tomato sauce ready on hand.